Hello everyone, I'm Duk Chung with VTV International. This is the English Bulletin VTV News coming to you live from Hanoi. First, let's get you up to date with the headlines. The National Assembly continues its 7th session with discussions on the law on enterprises. Chinese vessels continue to use water cannons to attack Vietnamese fishery control boat. And later, let's take a look at Book Box, a new project that aims to change the reading culture in Vietnam. On to the first update of the hour. National Assembly deputies continue the 7th session today to discuss the amended law on enterprises following a presentation by Minister of Planning and Investment Bùi Quang Vinh on Monday. Deputies stressed the need for the law on enterprises to be in accordance with the amended Constitution of 2013, which stipulates the freedom of doing business in all sectors not prohibited by law. They also emphasized that the enterprise law needed to spell out the specifications more clearly. In addition, National Assembly deputies discussed the amended regulations concerning the management and usage of government funds in business. Now, in the following report, we're going to listen to what some deputies have to say about the proposed amendments to the law on enterprises.
The amended law on enterprises serves to institutionalize the freedom of doing business as stipulated in Article 33 of the Constitution. Accordingly, people have the freedom of doing business in all sectors not prohibited by the government. The government is to conduct periodical checks and publish a list of prohibited and conditional business activities.
Relevant authorities need to specify in detail the conditions of each business activity. Only when the conditions are fulfilled will a business be able to register with the authorities. The details of prohibited activities need to also be laid out so as to be clear for both officials and business people. In addition to the amended law on enterprises, bylaws need to be devised. The bylaws often take a lot of time to come up with. That's something we'll have to fix. I think that the amount of bylaws should be restricted.
A number of deputies have commented that the amended law on enterprises should provide clear regulations that can be applied directly without the need for bylaws.
The administrative procedure should be simplified and the law clearer and more detailed. Relevant authorities need to work together to provide a fair and transparent business environment.
After the group discussions, the National Assembly will convene again to discuss the amended law on enterprises on June the 17th.
Moving on now to the latest updates on the tension in the sea between China and Vietnam. On Wednesday morning, Vietnam time, Chinese vessels continued to use water cannons to attack a Vietnam fishery control boat. At a location about 11 nautical miles from the Chinese illegal oil rig Haiyang Shuyou 981, a Vietnamese patrol boat detected 3 Chinese vessels assaulting Vietnam fishery control boat KN 630 using water cannons. For 20 minutes, 2 Chinese vessels steered close to the port and stern of the Vietnamese boat, affecting the latter's course, while the remaining Chinese vessel attacked with high-pressure water cannons. KN 630 is the same boat that was heavily damaged a few days back by Chinese forces. During that attack, 3 crew members were injured. On Wednesday, Vietnamese patrol boats counted a total of 62 Chinese vessels circling the Haiyang Shuyou 981 oil rig. In response to media questions about Vietnam's reaction to an incident in which a Vietnamese fishing boat was rammed by a Chinese ship and later capsized, on Tuesday, Foreign Ministry spokesman Lê Hải Bình stated that China's actions are a violation of Vietnam's sovereignty, sovereign rights, and jurisdiction in the EC, running counter to the spirit of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the EC DOC, complicating the EC situation. Once again, Vietnam requests China stop its inhumane acts, causing damage to life, property, and the legitimate interests of Vietnamese fishermen, respect international law, and provide proper compensation for Vietnamese fishermen. In response to China's move of its illegal oil rig on Tuesday morning, spokesman Bình said the new position of the Haiyang Shuyo 981 oil rig still lies completely within the exclusive economic zone and continental shelf of Vietnam, over which Vietnam holds full jurisdiction. Vietnam strongly opposes China's move and requests China to immediately withdraw the oil rig and escort ships out of Vietnamese waters and to not repeat any similar actions. The 10 crew of Da Nang fishing ship DNA 90152 were successfully rescued after being rammed by a Chinese vessel at around 4 p.m. Monday local time, some 17 nautical miles to the southwest of the Haiyang Shuyo 981. Continuous cases like this around the Paracels showed increasing Chinese aggression. However, Vietnamese fishermen persevere with the help of the authorities.
The media has gathered at Ms. Hua's house. Having overcome the Chengdu hurricane in 2006, DNA 90152 was not so fortunate this time. Ms. Hua received news that the ship was completely destroyed by continuous Chinese ramming attacks. Our crew reported that the Chinese had rammed the ship. Other ships have rescued them. Recently, they said now it was more important to rescue our brothers. News of the ship's loss was reported back to the mainland. But the most heated concern now is how fishermen, or rather Paracels, are coping and the damage done to the ships on their way home.
Our director decided to give maximum support to the ship owner and their crew.
At Thọ Quang Fishing Dock, Da Nang, fishermen are set on the task. Information on the sunk ship hasn't shaken them at all.
We are angered but not worried. With the fishery control protecting the seas, we still go to work as normal, protecting our seas. Supporting our fishermen is our task, responsibility, and primary function. We will increase our forces to stand side by side with the fishermen in the protection of our sovereignty.
Together with the protection of the authorities, these days, messages of solidarity and togetherness from the nation are being sent to resilient fishermen who spend days and nights at sea.
The recent provocative acts of China in the EC are not only a topic of attention in Vietnam, they have also sparked concerns in the international community. In the following days, we'll be holding interviews on VTV News with a number of experts, academics, and friends of Vietnam on their thoughts on the situation. This morning, which was Monday night U.S. Eastern Time, we connected with Lieutenant Colonel James Zumwalt, a veteran from the American War in Vietnam. He's also author to the book Bare Feet, Iron Will, Stories from the Other Side of the Battlefields. He has made some 50 trips to Vietnam since the end of the war, and he considers Vietnam his second country. We'll now have a recap of this interview with Lieutenant Colonel James Zumwalt. Hello, Mr. Zumwalt. Thank you very much for joining us on VTV News today.
Thank you very much for asking me to join you.
Well, can you share some thoughts on the recent developments between China and Vietnam in the East Sea, particularly the deployment of an illegal oil rig by China in Vietnam's exclusive economic zone and continental shelf?
I do find the move by China to be very provocative. There's, I don't know if you have the Vietnamese equivalent to this, but the expression of the neighborhood bully is applicable to what China is doing now. They are the regional bully because they're the biggest military power in the region, and they are trying to flex their muscle.
Well, what is your opinion on China's claims? Do they have any legal basis to it?
China ideally would like to lay claim to as much territory as they can in the South China Sea. As I understand it now, they're laying claim to about 70% of it. From what I've been able to ascertain in investigating the issue, it seems to me that China does not have a claim to many of the places that it is stating it does have a claim to. China has tried to give look at things from an historical perspective, but under the United Nations Land of Sea Treaty, history doesn't have anything to do with it. It's the terms that the signatories to the agreement had signed off on. And China, I believe, signed off several years ago on the agreement. So it is bound by those terms, and history is not something that is recognized under the treaty.
Now, as you might have known, during recent days, Chinese ships have been ramming into Vietnam's enforcement crew. Where do you see this going in the future?
Well, I think that this is a continuous effort on the part of the Chinese to test the resolve of the Vietnamese. And there comes a point in time where a nation has to decide we've been pushed enough and now we need to react. I don't see that yet as far as the situation between China and Vietnam goes, but I think it is important also for Vietnam to recognize that they do not want to get in a situation where they are dealing with China alone. I think they want to Vietnam needs to try to coordinate their efforts along with the other countries in the region that are encountering these same problems with China, the Philippines, Brunei, and have a united front.
Now, Mr. Zumwalt, you are a longtime friend of Vietnam. During this particular time, is there anything that you would like to say to the Vietnamese people?
Well, having spent some time in the ground during the war in Vietnam, I have an appreciation for the patience of the Vietnamese people, and I think they need to exhibit that same patience now.
And if you had the chance, what would you like to say to the Chinese side? Well,
China is trying very hard to be a superpower on the level of the United States. Being a superpower, there are certain responsibilities that come with that, and one of those responsibilities is that you try to reduce tensions rather than build them up. And so if China wants to be a superpower, I would tell them they've got to start acting like one.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Zumwalt, for joining us today, and we wish you all the best.
Quite welcome. Thank you very much, and I look forward to returning to Vietnam at some point.
Yes.
All right. Bye-bye.
And that was our interview with Lieutenant Colonel James Zumwalt, a veteran from the American War in Vietnam. We will continue to bring you the latest updates on the East Sea situation and also exclusive interviews with related people on this subject in our coming bulletins. Let's now move on to other stories. The Vietnamese Ministry of Defense officially inaugurated the Vietnam Peacekeeping Center on Tuesday in Hanoi. Vietnamese officials and a United Nations delegation attended the launch ceremony.
Addressing the opening ceremony, Vietnamese officials confirmed that Vietnam has prepared carefully to participate in the United Nations peacekeeping activities.
This move is an important decision of the party and state, showing the consistent foreign policies which respect peace, cooperation, development, and proactive international integration. It marks a new step forward in the international integration process of our country and our military.
Vietnam's Peacekeeping Center functions as an advisory and training agency for the Ministry of Defense, which manages the operations of the Vietnam Peacekeeping Force.
The participation in United Nations peacekeeping activity contributes to the success of the country's foreign affairs and heightens Vietnam's stance and image in the international stage. It also shows that Vietnamese love peace and are making efforts to build a peaceful and prosperous world without conflicts.
Vietnam's participation to the UN's peacekeeping force was also acknowledged by the UN's Special Committee on Peacekeeping Operations.
They have taken it over a long time. They considered it very carefully. So I think it is a very well thought, carefully thought out decision. And they are starting in slow steps. And I think this is a very commendable way to go. I have full confidence. It is, they are excellently trained. I think the foundations are very strong. So we certainly look forward to the contribution.
The Ministry of Defense gave the decisions, which were approved by State President Trương Tấn Sang, to appoint the two first Vietnamese military officers as the liaison officers at the UN mission in South Sudan.
At the beginning of June, I will leave Vietnam for Uganda. There is a United Nations base there. I will be trained in 1 week as a liaison officer in Uganda and then fly to South Sudan to take the mission.
On December the 4th, 2013, Vietnam Ministry of Defense signed the decision to establish the Vietnam Peacekeeping Center. With its heroic tradition, experience, and capacity, coupled with its serious and careful preparations, the Vietnamese armed forces are expected to successfully perform the missions in the UN's peacekeeping operations.
In the latter half of our news bulletin, Da Nang City bolsters work-related IT learning to deal with a shortfall in IT human resources. And later, let's take a look at BookBox, a new project that aims to change the reading culture in Vietnam. That's coming up next on VTV News. Stay tuned. Welcome back to VTV News live from Hanoi. In recent years, IT human resources have dramatically increased in Vietnam, and Da Nang has many software companies, while the city is determined to apply e-governance and invest in a centralized IT park. Despite the large number of IT graduates this year, skills shortfall remains a challenge, and there is a need to improve the link between education institutions and employers.
This is a training course for 30-year students at Da Nang FPT University at FPT Software. Besides access to the realities of working at real companies, students also have the chance to actually take part in real projects. This is completely new knowledge to university students and should help them find work once they leave university.
I hope this will be a useful experience after my graduation, and at the end of this course, I will try to achieve an FS certificate. With this, I can work for the company while still going to university.
Most students have good knowledge, but they lack skills needed in a business environment. May that be group working, reporting, or something as basic as commitment and discipline.
Student weaknesses is said to be the product of the lack of links between educators and businesses. In the light, FPT University, Duy Tân University, and Da Nang Polytechnics have worked with software companies to develop their curriculums and have students acquire a professional working approach and improve their vocational skills.
In FPT University's curriculum, after 5 terms of university training, students will be sent to company for real-life training for 1 term. The contents of the training are negotiated between the university and the company.
Da Nang City should have a bright high-tech future as an IT park will be developed in Hoa Liên Commune, Hoa Bang District. This project will not only attract enterprises looking for investment, but will also create about 25,000 IT jobs. Therefore, training a good quality IT workforce is a key issue.
International visitors to Vietnam in May alone is estimated to reach about 675,500, up 20.66% compared to the same period last year, according to the Vietnam National Administration of Tourism, VNAT. The number of tourists from Hong Kong, Germany, China, Laos, Cambodia, Russia, and Spain in the first 5 months all increased compared with the same period in 2013. Vietnam's tourism industry will continue to implement measures to ensure safety and best services for tourists. The VNAT already announced their promotional tourism plans at potential markets and proposed for close and more cooperation from other countries to boost the number of tourists. In other news, BookBox, a new project that aims to change the reading culture in Vietnam, has recently been launched. This project aims to set up bookcases in public areas for readers to take home and read. The only requirement is that the readers would have to replace the book that they take with another one.
BookBox has attracted the attention of over 5,000 readers on Facebook within the past few months. Different bookcases have been set up in several open spaces in Ho Chi Minh City and Hanoi and Da Nang City. O Sinh is one of them. People can bring the books here, have them marked with the BookBox sign, put them in the bookcase and take another book from a bookcase to read. I love this place because there are many interesting books. I can also share my fairy tales with other people. I really like to share my books with my friends who also enjoy reading. That is why I came here. BookBox is similar to a small public library, where book lovers do not have to worry about the prices of books and get more access to books. However, the project has encountered some difficulties.
At first, we were afraid that someone would take the books away without returning them. But if we trust other people, our faith will eventually pay off. Even when a book is taken away, I'm glad that it is read.
Each bookcase costs $37 to $47 US. The money is donated by benefactors and educational institutions. BookBox was based on the Free Little Library model in the United States. This project has helped many book lovers get access to a huge fund of knowledge and created an environment for people to share their love for reading.
Up next, let's take a quick look at a few online articles about Vietnam. Luxury resort developer and operator 115 Marina Club of Singapore this week signed a memorandum of understanding to build Vietnam's latest integrated marina resort. An article on PropertyReport.com says the waterfront resort, which is being developed in response to the increasingly popular boating and yachting scene in the region, will be the company's first overseas marina project. The company is planning to build another resort in Ho Chi Minh City. According to VietnamBriefing.com, in a clear sign of the strength of Vietnam's growing consumer market, McDonald's has announced plans to open a total of 4 to 5 restaurants in Ho Chi Minh City this year as part of an ambitious goal for around 100 restaurants in Vietnam in the next decade. Around Asia, McDonald's has had 400 restaurants in the Philippines, 260 in Malaysia, and 195 in Thailand. The managing director of McDonald's Vietnam, Nguyen Huy Thich, said that the initial strategy would be to focus on the Ho Chi Minh City market before reaching out to Hanoi. The 2014 Southern Fruit Festival is set to run from June 1st to the 8th at an entertainment complex in Ho Chi Minh City. The festival will feature a wide range of activities, including a 70-stall fruit floating market. The stalls are boats which offer more than 180 kinds of fruits which can last for over 3 months at prices 20 to 40% lower than market prices. According to the organizers, several participating artisans are planning to create a fruit installation artwork themed Điện Biên Phủ on Sea to boost the morale of soldiers who are fighting to safeguard Vietnam's sovereignty over seas and islands.
Today's figures begins with a story from bike-eu.com. Only shortly after the anti-China unrest calmed down and the bicycle industry resumed operations, bicycle chain giant KMC announced a multi-million investment in a new Vietnamese factory. KMC announced last week that it will invest about 3.6 million euros or $4.9 million in Vietnam in the second half of the year. It includes covering the constructions of a new factory capable of making 15 million bicycle chains a year. Vietnam has earned some $899 million from selling 2.061 million tons of rice to the world market as of May 22nd this year. An article on ShanghaiDaily.com quoted the Vietnam Food Associations, or VFA, as saying on Tuesday. The Philippines ranked second among Vietnam's large rice importers in 4 months period with 18.66% of market shares, while China maintains Vietnam's biggest rice importer, accounting for 41.75% of the market shares. GlobalPost.com has the final story. Vietnam is expected to receive some 3.7 million international tourists in the first 5 months of 2014, up 26%, while sees a downturn in May year-on-year, according to Vietnam National Administrations of Tourism. Up to now, Vietnam has fulfilled 46.85% of its set target to welcome 8 million foreign tourists in 2014. In May alone, Vietnam is forecast to receive over 674,000 international tourists, down 9.62% over the previous month, but up 20.66% year-on-year.
Up next, let's take a quick look at today's weather forecast. This is the end of our news bulletin for this hour. Thank you very much for watching, and goodbye for now from Hanoi.